got a podcast called Doug Loves Movies, and so he was just at the premiere in L.A. And so I said to him, I said, so have you got the idea for the next film? I said, and he goes, yeah, Chronicon. And I said, Chronicon, a fan's dope. And he said, Chronicon, Empire Strikes Back. So I think Empire Strikes Back will be making an appearance, and I think that if he shot that at like one of the big pot conventions, would be genius. Yeah, but no, I love Doug. Doug and I are good friends, so it's fantastic. Yes, sir.
Have you heard of a convention called Comic Head? And that's the next documentary in Japan.
That's the one that's in Japan. Like, and that's the one. Is Comic Head the one that like 500,000 people go to?
500,000 during the summer and 500,000 during the winter.
Yeah. So Comic Head is like the biggest comic convention in the world. It is the biggest. Like, so as big as Comic-Con is, it is like jack shit compared to Comic-Con. Like, Comic-Con is 3 times the size of this. And someone else brought this up to me recently, and I didn't even know it existed until someone told me. Oh, was it you that told me? Amazing. So like he brought it up at like an interview that I had on the AMA, on the Ask Me Anything on Reddit. And so I was doing an AMA, and like it was the most. And so he told me about it. I was like, I didn't even know this thing existed. How do I not go to this? And so literally, it's 500,000 people. So yeah, I think something 3 times the size of Comic-Con. I was like, I smell, Comic-Con episode 5 already. Yeah, right there. See, that's the beauty of this movie. I can do 2 more sequels and then 3 more prequels with animated people that all of you will hate. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to get the most racist character in the first one. Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, enjoyed it. I'm actually a music journalist.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You look like a music journalist.
That's good. One of the things that we should definitely have a picture taken together after you.
That is a given.
We must do.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things I wondered about, I mean, I've been a comic book fan for a long time. I've never been to the San Diego thing.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a cliche observation, but now having seen this and having at least an idea of sort of what it looks like, it strikes me that in the beginning, this was a gathering of people who got together because they loved comics.
Yeah.
Now it's become a thing almost where it's like job interviews to get into the film industry, in addition to the comic book thing.
Right. Well, I don't think there's anybody there like trying to get interviews to the film business. I think everybody who is coming there, with the exception of Holly, who is is in the Masquerade and trying to break into the costume business. But like, you gotta understand, like the Masquerade is as competitive to get into as like the Sundance Film Festival. Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people compete to be one of the 30 to 40 that get selected to compete in the Masquerade. And they're selected like a year in advance. That way they have a year to prepare their costumes to get ready for the competition.
So this isn't just like people come to this.
It's not just a bunch of yahoos saying, "Look what I made." It's like a craft fair. No, these are like people who, it's like incredible. Like these people put so much work into it, and I had no idea about what that was. And so, I mean, for me, it's like it's one of those sides of Comic-Con that I didn't know existed. Like, I didn't know the idea of Comic-Con as like geek job fair where people show up with their portfolios. Like, I didn't know that people came there shopping themselves to like the likes of Marvel or DC or Dark Horse. Like, that's, for me, I was blown away by that side because you never get that. Like, when you watch the news coverage of Comic-Con, and this is one of the things that made me want to make this film, is when you watch the news coverage of Comic-Con, it's like, and here's the latest big summer action movie. And look at these weirdos in costumes. It's like freak show and celebrities. Like those are the 2 things you get, and that's so not what Comic-Con is. There's so much more than actually what you ever get portrayed.
Yeah, the other person, one of the people interviewed talked about it being an annual reunion.
Yeah.
I would say that I get that vibe. I don't know what kind of music you're into.
Yeah.
I've been to the Fairport Convention Festival in England 7 times.
Right.
And that's the English folk rock. That is. And,
Yeah.
And so I know the people, and
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
It's a reunion.
And it's people who are passionate about the same thing. Like I have some friends of mine, good friends of mine who are super sports fans, who like make fun of me for loving things like this, but they have no problem painting their faces green and white and going to like a Jets game, and or taking their shirts off and being like woo during a game, and I'm like, just so you know, you are the same as these guys, as and my friends in Green Bay who are putting like the cheese squares on their heads. I'm like, just so you know, same thing, different outlet, very different outlet.
Like say fantasy football is just.
Yeah, anybody who plays fantasy football can't say shit about someone in a costume. That's all I gotta say. If you play fantasy football, fuck you. You can't say anything about someone who puts on a Batman costume. Because you're like, oh yeah, my team played really well this week. I'm gonna trade a couple players, and I'm like, listen, you're not like running the Oakland Raiders over here, pal. Yeah, there'll be the DVD will come out just in time for Comic-Con. It'll be out at Comic-Con this summer in San Diego. Yes, sir.
Two questions. Number one, was it happenstance that you found these two people that decided he was going to propose?
Yeah, well, we put out a massive casting call for the film. Like when we had the idea for the movie, when we first came up with the film, and the idea for the film came in 2009. I was hired by Fox to do the Simpsons 20th anniversary special for the Simpsons. And I'd never been to Comic-Con, never been to San Diego, been to a lot of other cons, and I'd always wanted to go. And as soon as we got that job, I was like, we're going to San Diego. I was like, we're going to San Diego, we're going to find Simpsons super fans, we're going to have like a casting, we're going to have people come in and profess their love for like all things Homer. And so we set up kind of this American Idol-esque casting with, you know, Al Jean, myself, Matt Selman, and people came in and basically talked about why they love The Simpsons so much. And this guy came into this audition painted head to toe in liquid latex. Red liquid latex. He had a little pair of skivvies that had been painted over, and it was all over his face, his head. He had like these fake teeth put in and blood coming out of his mouth, like black blood. He had these little black spots all over him and little things sticking out all over him. And he came running, he's just like, oh, thank you so much for being here. I just gotta tell you, I love The Simpsons. The Simpsons are the greatest thing ever. I love Homer Simpson. And he went on for like 5 minutes, and it was like shock and awe when he came into the room. And when he was finally done, I was like, that's amazing, but what is all this? and then he went, oh. And he looked down because he forgot that he'd come in this like, whole outfit. And he goes, oh, I'm Carnage. you know who Carnage is? I was like, oh yeah, I know who Carnage is. And he goes, oh okay. Yeah, my wife helped me get ready this morning. She painted this on me, and then you know, she and the kids drove me here and dropped me off. And I said, hold on a second. They dropped you off? And he went, yeah. They don't really get it. And at that moment, I was like, this is a movie. This right here. And then a year later, we were there making the film, and it was, you know, it was an amazing thing. So as soon as we had the idea that we wanted to follow kind of archetypal characters in, people like him, you know, people like you know, we found out from Joss Whedon was the one who suggested the Masquerade, you know, that we shoot at the Masquerade. Stan Lee was the one who said, you got it. Like, what about the portfolio reviews? I was like, I didn't even know they did that. And he goes, oh, you got to shoot those. Those are incredible. And so like that, so he was the one who suggested those. We met so many people who were like, oh, we met each other because of Comic-Con. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, well, it's not like for our love of like these things. Like he loves Star Wars, but I love Star Trek, but we still like each other. I was like, oh my God, I was like, we have to find a couple that love each other because of this. I met a guy the year we were doing the Simpsons special. I was like walking through, and I heard this guy talking with an English accent to somebody. He was standing there with this toy that he just bought, and I said, I stopped and I said to him, I said, wow, did you come all the way here for England for this? He goes, no. He goes, I came all the way here from England for this. And he literally held up what his toy was. He had just landed. He took a day off from work, flew from Heathrow to LAX, drove down to San Diego Comic-Con, came inside, bought this toy that was only available this day at Comic-Con, and then was on his way, like literally, he was standing there talking to somebody, like a friend of his that he knew from like online or something. He was talking to him, and then he was literally driving back to LAX and flying back to Heathrow. Same day with his toy. Like, and this was, when I met him, I was like, we got to find that guy. I want to find that guy. And so we put out this massive casting call through, you know, fan sites, websites, cosplay websites. Harry Knowles came on to do his film with us, so Ain't It Cool News launched it out. And we had about 2,000 people submit to be in the movie that we then whittled down to people that you see in the film. And, you know, we got James Darling and Say Young's video, and they're talking about how they fell in love because of Comic-Con. And, like, you know, a year ago, you know, he walked into a coffee shop in Santa Barbara and saw me looking at my Comic-Con book. And I said, you're going to Comic-Con? I'm going to Comic-Con. So they started talking about all the things that they were going to go look at together. And they went together, and they ended up moving in, falling in love. And then, like, it cuts to, like, James Darling in a closet with the video, and he's like, but what I really want to do is propose to Say Young at the convention. And I was like, done. This kid, they are so in. They're so in. And it was amazing. And we like really lucked out with the cast. The very first person we cast in the film was Holly Conrad. We got her video. If you go online, if you go on YouTube, her submission video is still online. It'll be like Holly Conrad, like Comic-Con audition or something. She sent it to us, and there were like 600 views. Now there's like 140,000. And she sent us the video, and as soon as we got it, I sent it to Stan and Joss and Thomas Tull and Harry Knowles, and I said, I need you guys to watch this immediately because I think we should cast her right now. I said, we need to call her, tell her we're going to put her in the movie. And we kind of used her as the litmus test that we gauged everyone else against, because she had such a great story. And for me, what makes a great story is a great goal. Like, she was really coming with a purpose. She wasn't just coming, oh, I can't wait to come hang out. It's not, like she was saying, I'm going there this is my last, what you don't know is like, this is her last masquerade. You can only compete in the masquerade 3 times. Once you compete for the 3rd time, you're considered a professional. You can't compete ever again. So this is kind of her last time to compete in the masquerade, and she wants to use this as the real jumping off point to actually start a career as a costume designer. This is it. Like, this is her last shot to really break in. And so it's like her and her friends, and I was like, and so she's coming down, and then you look at, like, here's Chuck Rosansky. Chuck's trying to keep his comic book business alive in the midst of it shifting from this paper business to a digital business. What does he do? So here's this guy who's really trying to, like, keep this thing that he's loved for like 4 decades alive. Here's, Skip Harvey and Eric Henson, who are trying to break into this business that they both so want to be a part of. Here's Anthony Calderon, who's like dying to get an 18-inch Galactus, and that's all he wants, and then he'll be complete. And then you have James Darling and Say Young, who here's a guy who wants to find the geeky girl that he wants to spend the rest of his life with. For me, we found incredible stories to kind of tell the story of Comic-Con, and I think that's what really makes the film work. Yes, sir.
I assume you're going to be there next year for the DVD release?
I will be there for the DVD release, yes, sir. And we're planning a screening, which we're trying to figure out when it'll be, but we're trying to plan a screening in Hall H of Comic-Con, which will be the greatest day of my life I could ever think of.
If you had to cosplay for that release, what would you dress up as?
Well, I tell you, I cosplayed for the first time at Comic-Con last year.
Oh, okay.
Because I took my son's 5 years old, and I took him to Comic-Con last year, and we made a book, a companion book that came out with the film that came out last summer. So the book came out a year earlier, which DK Publishing did, and it's like a Taschen made like your fantastic geekier book, and it's this amazing, beautiful picture book of Comic-Con. It's also called Comic-Con Episode 4. So we launched the book last year, and before I went, so I'm driving in the car and I'm showing my son the book, and I'm just like, and here's where we're going. And he's flipping through the book in the back seat. He's like, oh, wow, wow. And then he's like, and Superman will be there. And I said, and he's like, and Green Lantern will be there. And I go, yeah. And I said, and you can dress up. And he goes, oh, Daddy, I could be Batman. And I said, yes, you could be Batman. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden he goes, no. You could be Batman, and I'll be Batboy. And I said, deal. And so here we were last year as we launched the book, as me and my little man were, Batman and Batboy at Comic-Con. It was awesome. It was the greatest thing ever to like take your kid and do that. It was the best. Yes, sir.
At what point during the creation of the documentary did you decide that you would present it differently with no voice or your face anywhere in it?
No, the idea, it's a good question. Like, from the minute I got the idea for the film, and we kind of like decided to make a film, like from day one I wasn't going to be in the movie. And I said, this film, I'm a fan. I've been a fan my whole life, but the film isn't about me being a fan making a movie. The fan is about the people who are going there for a real purpose. For me it was a real purpose-driven movie. And when we started pitching the film to investors, it was interesting because we would go in and meet with people and like, oh, it's a great idea, we love the film, you're going to be in it, right? And I would say, no, I'm not going to be in it. And they're like, well, we'll give you the money if you're in it. And I was like, well, then we'll find the money somewhere else. And we probably had about 5 or 6 investors, that came forward saying, we'll give you the money if you're in it. And we walked away from all the money. And then finally, I was flying from New York to LA, and I was on a plane, and I was reading Wired magazine. And in there was a profile of Thomas Tull. Thomas Tull is the CEO of Legendary Pictures. The guy who basically changed genre movies, fanboy movies, like Dark Knight, Watchmen, 300. This guy literally shifted the whole needle in these types of films. And as soon as the plane landed, I called my agent at CIA and I said, I want to meet Thomas Tull. And he's like, that's a great idea. And literally that afternoon, I was in Thomas Tull's office pitching him Comic-Con. And Thomas Tull said yes in the room. He said, he goes, I will help you produce this film. He goes, I'll help you get talent. He goes, I will help you put together the financing. I said, I'm not going to be in the movie. He's like, no, I get that. He goes, I totally get that. He goes, I think that's the best choice. And it was great. Like, he was on board from day one and helped us put together all the financing for the movie. He gave us access to so much talent, like Frank Miller, Guillermo del Toro. He's doing Pacific Rim with Guillermo. So, I mean, it was phenomenal having him as a producing partner. But it's one of those things, like, it was the right choice, because for me, it's, you can feel my handprint. Like, it is a movie that I make. You can feel that it has a personality of a film that I would make even without me in it.